Hello, I'm Pastor Greg, and welcome to the teaching ministry of Calvary Community Church in Mattawan, Michigan. We're doing a very short series on Lent about Jesus setting his face resolutely or like flint to Jerusalem. And we read in Luke chapter 9, he resolutely set out for Jerusalem. He knew his ministry, he knew his call. His call was to seek and to save the lost. And that came through the cross. Isaiah says that the Messiah, the suffering servant, would have his face like flint, being strong, determined, purposeful. He knows it's time to go to Jerusalem. And what we're going to see is we're just taking a couple weeks on this, but there's all interruptions. And all three Gospels talk about these interruptions. Really, all four Gospels do, but three of them tell this one story. The story of the parents who are bringing their infants and their toddlers to Jesus. Mark chapter 10, verse 13 says this. Parents are bringing their little children, their infants, their toddlers to Jesus for Jesus to touch them. Now, I love this aspect here because the parents are taking their responsibility. Man, Jesus has been healing people. He's healing blind Bartimaeus. He has fed the 5,000, the 4,000. He has brought back to life. And the parents know this, and they want their infant and their toddler to see this Jesus. Proverbs 22:6 says, train up a child in the way that he or she should go. When they get old, they will not depart from it. And Deuteronomy 6:6 says, teach them your children diligently while you walk by the way, when you sit in your house, when you lie down, when you get up. Parents, we're called, and grandparents are called to continually, daily be pointing our children to Jesus, pointing them to Jesus. And that's what these parents were doing. These parents were wanting Jesus to bless their children, while the disciples, the disciples rebuked the parents. Rebuked, no, do not come here. No, you can't do this. The disciples missed the bigger picture of what Jesus was all about. Sometimes I wonder if we miss the bigger picture of what Jesus is all about. I think about it for a lot of us. If you're older like me, we grew up in a time where children were to be seen and not heard, where worship services were, for the most part, for kids, pretty boring. And we wonder why kids walked away from church. It was a time where it was be still or you're going to be disciplined when you get home. Yes, there is an aspect of behavior. I understand that. Don't write me and say I don't understand that. I do understand that. And yet there is also an aspect of the disciples said, no, don't come. And Jesus has some amazing words for the disciples and for you and I. And Jesus then saw what the disciples were doing, and he became indignant, not just rebuking, but indignant, harsher than a rebuke. And he said to the disciples, let them, permit them to come. The word here it's a aorist imperative, meaning immediately. Let the parents bring their kids to me right now. What I'm doing is not so important. What I'm doing with these adults, sometimes we think we're doing the adult work. We got adult work, adult language. That drives me crazy, friends. Adult language? No, it's not adult language. Adult work? No, the work that we're called to have. Jesus points out here, he says, imperatively, bring them to me now. I want to be with these kids. I want to be with these kids. I want them to be with me. Let them come to me. Do not hinder them. And that word do not hinder them means stop, disciples. Stop putting up these roadblocks. How often don't we put up roadblocks to kids, to toddlers, elementary, high school, college? Maybe we put roadblocks up to other adults to coming to Jesus. We need to stop that, because the only stumbling block should be Jesus himself, not my attitude or my actions. And then it's interesting. Jesus says, let them come to me. Do not hinder them. For the kingdom of God belongs to such as these. I tell you the truth, anyone who will not receive the kingdom of God like a child will never enter it. Friends, a toddler and an infant, they're helpless. They need a parent. They need a grandparent. They're helpless. We are helpless without Jesus. 12-step program. So the first step of the 12-step program is to admit that you are helpless over whatever's going on in your life. We are helpless like a child, and we need Jesus. We are trusting like a toddler and an infant. Man, they are just trusting of their caregivers. We're called to be trusting of God wholeheartedly, called to be open. Man, you can see it. You can see it on adults when a kid trusts them and is open to them and wants to be with them. And kids are colorblind, friends. Kids are colorblind. Jesus says we need to be like a child to come into his kingdom. Trusting, helpless, open. And then he took the children in his arms. He blessed them. He put his hands on them. Isn't that beautiful? To be blessed by Jesus, to be blessed. And we do the benediction, the blessing every week, every church does. And that's a blessing over all of those who are in worship and myself, a blessing from God. I desire that blessing. How often can't you and I bless the kids around us? Deuteronomy 6. Throughout the day of our walk of life with our kids and grandkids, we can reach out, point them to Jesus, and bless them. Ask God's blessing on them and be open to their walking with Jesus Christ as we walk with them. Well, Sunday mornings at 10 o'clock, I invite you, Calvary Community Church, 7829 South 5th Street. Thank you for watching, and I encourage you to be in worship with us one of these Sundays. Thank you. Have a blessed day.